Hello everyone, welcome to Academy of Civil Service. My name is Anand Ramabhadran and today we are going to talk about geography. Now, it's a very interesting subject and more than interesting, it's very important for your preparation. See, be it any exam, like in any exam you're preparing, say either APSC or UPSC or any exam, right? You need to find answers for 3 important questions before start studying a subject. The questions are like why you are studying the subject and what do you need to study and how you can do this, right? So in this video we are going to find answer for these 3 questions. I'm going to give you answer for these 3 questions like why, what and how, right? And we also will discuss how the sessions will be progressing, how this online course will be progressing and the topics we will be discussing and how the entire module is arranged, and I'll give you a brief idea regarding the entire geography course in this video. So without wasting much time, let's start. So the first question first, why are we studying this subject? Like if you look at the previous questions, you will understand that we are having many questions coming from geography for your prelims examination as well as for your mains examination. This is one of the most important things about this subject. It's there both for your prelims as well as for your mains. So if you're taking effort in geography, it will be beneficial for you both for your prelims as well as for your mains. Okay, as well as that, like if you look at the number of the questions coming from geography, for prelims, out of 100 questions, 15 questions on an average would be coming from geography. So if you are getting 15 questions out of 100 for prelims, at the same time for mains in the GS paper, out of 20 questions, around 8 questions will be coming from geography. So if you invest time in this subject, it's going to be beneficial both for your prelims as well as mains, as I said earlier, right? And this is the simplest reason why we should study this subject, right? The next question is, what do we need to study? So the best place to know where to start, it's a syllabus. So every preparation, every subject, you should look at the syllabus. So the prelim syllabus of UPSC says Indian and world geography, and they are saying 3 keywords. The first one, physical geography, then second one, social geography, and the third one, economic geography. So this is a prelims syllabus. They are saying Indian and world geography, you have to study regarding physical, social as well as economic. Now if you look at this syllabus, it's not very descriptive. I mean, if you really look at it, anything can be asked under this syllabus. The syllabus is not at all descriptive. Now let's take a look at the main syllabus. Where the main syllabus, if you look at the main syllabus, there are 3 modules, 3 statements related with the geography in main syllabus, and the first one says salient features of world's physical geography. Now if you noticed, for prelims also this term was there, physical geography. Now what do you mean by this physical geography? Entire geography is a study of the earth, and the physical geography is studying different regions of the earth. Like in the sense, we will be studying regarding, say, the lithosphere, where we all are residing, right? All the landforms, the landscapes, how did they form, what are the different reasons for their formation and where can they be found. All these things we will be studying in, say, the topic called as geomorphology. And now if you look at around us, we have this weather, climate, certain time it's rain falling, certain time it's winter, certain time it's summer, there are different seasons, and sometimes it feels so hot, sometimes it's cold. There are so many things happening around us in the atmosphere. So the second part of the physical geography is climatology. We will be studying regarding the atmosphere, the weather and the climate. Okay, now the next one is oceanography. We will be studying regarding, as the name suggests, the oceans. What are the properties of the oceans? What are the landforms found over the oceans? What are tides, currents, those kind of things we will be studying oceanography. And there is another module in physical geography. As I told you earlier, we will be studying regarding the earth. We are studying the landforms, the atmosphere, the water, everything, right? Now, in order to study everything, we need to know how the earth formed. So the first module will be based on Earth and universe. We will be studying regarding the evolution of universe. We will study regarding the stars, the planets, the solar system, and finally we will reach the earth and we will study the evolution of earth and how did all these things we see around us, how did they all come into being, how did they all originate. That we will study in as the Earth and universe. So there are basically 4 modules, very important modules in world's physical geography. We will be studying regarding, say, Earth and universe, the evolution and things, then the climatology, then geomorphology, and then we will be studying regarding oceanography. So world physical geography, this is the overall idea, and the second syllabus says Distribution of key natural resources across the world, factors responsible for the location of primary, secondary and tertiary sector industries in various parts of the world. So the second syllabus, there are two key subtopics, like one natural resources and the other one industries. So the second syllabus is made up of two subtopics, resources as well as industries. Now regarding industries, they are specifying like on factors responsible for the location of primary, secondary and tertiary industries. Say primary means like agriculture, like the crops and those things, and like the secondary means like we'll be studying regarding say manufacturing. So the raw materials we'll be converting it into some other products like manufacturing, like say for example we'll be getting cotton, the cotton yarn, right? That's an primary sector industry, and we'll be modifying it into textile. Now textile industry is a secondary industry. Now coming to the next one, like the tertiary industries, like they are basically like service sectors like IT or like say education, tourism, or like the hospitals, those kind of health services, those kind of things, right? So the syllabus is specifying on factors responsible for these locations of these industries. Now if you look at it, certain parts of our nation as well as the world, like there are certain specific industries. What are the reasons for it? For example, let's consider say iron and steel industries. The raw material for iron and steel industries is nothing but the iron ore and things like say coal. They are like they are having more weight. So if the iron and steel industry is away from the coal resource or coal mines or like the iron ore mines, it will be difficult to transport the raw materials all the way up to this industrial sector. So most often the iron and steel industries will be based on where we can find these raw materials, plus transportation, another like another matter, like another concern. So most often these iron and steel industries will be combined together with some kind of major port, like in a port which can handle this much weight. Okay, so likewise there are different reasons for different industries, and there are terms like say food loose industries, like they can be set up anywhere, they don't need much raw materials. Like for example, let's say pharmaceutical industries, the medicines, their raw materials, they don't have much weight, so they can be easily transported from one place to another place. So like their industries can be set up anywhere. But that being said, the pharmaceutical industries in India, they're more focused on western side of the our Indian subcontinent. So what are the reasons for these things? So what I mean to say is, the second syllabus for industries, they're specifying on the factors responsible for the location of these industries. Okay, so the first one, world physical geography, and the second part of the syllabus, resources as well as industries. Now let's move on to the third one. Now the third one says important geophysical phenomena such as earthquake, tsunami, volcanic activity, cyclones, and there's a very important word there, etc. Like that means any geophysical phenomena can be asked based on this syllabus. Now we'll be studying say earthquake and volcanic activity in world physical geography itself. Like in geomorphology, we'll be studying regarding earthquake and volcanic activities as well as a tsunami. And when it comes to climate, we'll be studying regarding cyclones. So if you look at the syllabus, they're just saying, they're mentioning these geophysical phenomena, but that doesn't mean that they'll only be asking questions based on these phenomena, because there's a key word here which is etc. Okay, so if you look at the previous questions, we are having questions based on say thunderstorms or like cloud bursts or like flooding, urban flooding, things like that. So various events, various geophysical phenomena happening around us, you have to be aware about it. You have to study it both from the perspective of mains as well as from the perspective of prelims, because the main syllabus, as you can see here, they're more descriptive, and the prelim syllabus, it was not descriptive. So what happens is that most often they will be asking questions based on this syllabus for your prelims also. So in our sessions, what we do is like we'll try to cover this syllabus in a detailed way so that it will be beneficial both for your prelims as well as for your mains. Okay, so coming to the third module of geography, as you have seen, like it's geophysical phenomena. The next one, geographical features and their location, changes in critical geographical features and in flora and fauna, and the effects of such changes. So basically it's about geographical features, their location, their changes and their effect of those changes. For example, if you're having like say coral reef, where are they located, why are they located in these specific locations, and what are the recent events like resulting in certain changes in these coral reef. Now if you have been following articles, you'll notice that like we around the world, the coral reef, the coral bleaching is taking place and coral mortality is there. So why this is taking place, right? What will be the after effects of these changes? Plus like the events like everyone must be aware about, like say climate change and global warming. So why are there, what are the changes they are causing and what are the effects of those changes? So I would say like the third part of the syllabus, like the second part of the third syllabus more specifically, it's related with environment. Right, so many environmental issues are happening around us, and you will be getting question based on that here. So in the entire physical geography, we'll also be studying regarding various geographical features, and you need to know why are they located in specific areas, and you need to be aware about what are the changes they are going through. What are the changes they are going through, as well as the effect of those changes. Okay, now for example, I'll specify one specific question that was asked by UPSC in a mains examination. They asked about like the cryosphere and the influence of cryosphere on like the world climate, right? So they asked like, what do you mean by cryosphere and what are the influence of cryosphere on global climate? Now that year, like this question, everyone was caught off guard with this question. Like no one was knowing where are they asking this question from. Now if you look at the say NCERT, they haven't mentioned this word cryosphere anywhere. So it's like if you really look at it, the articles and everything, you'll notice that like at that time the Antarctican ice cap, right, it was melting due to global warming, and a particular ice sheet broke off from the Antarctica. Right, this was news at that time, and based on that they asked a question based on cryosphere. Now if you look at the word, like cryo means frozen, sphere means region, so they are asking question regarding how these ice cap, ice sheet, like glacier in Himalayan, throughout the world, right, anywhere, so how these frozen regions of the world will be affecting the global climate. So based on a current affair relevance, they are asking question from your conventional topic. So it's also should be seen as the changes in geography features. So what I'm trying to tell you is this part is more dynamic, and you need to be updated with say the articles and everything, and you should be knowing what's happening around you, so that you will be able to answer the questions based on this part of the syllabus. So the main syllabus, as I said earlier, they're very descriptive. They're talking about world's physical geography, they're talking about resources, they're talking about industries, then comes the geophysical phenomena, the geographical features, their location, the changes and the effect of those changes. Now after seeing this syllabus, you know that we get a fair idea about how the questions will be coming, right? Actually we are not yet clear how the questions will be coming, because we have just seen a syllabus, and based on this syllabus we won't get completely understand what they're going to ask, right? So now we need to look at the previous year questions, and if we look at the previous year questions, we'll get certain areas, certain topics from based on these syllabus. They're focusing on these areas and asking questions, right? So in our course we have selected these areas based on the syllabus, and we have designed the course in a way that we will be able to answer all the previous year questions for the past 9 years, to be very specific, from 2011 to 2019, and important questions before 2011 also will be covered through our sessions. Now, you might think why this 2011, what's the importance? The syllabus for UPSC changed in 2011, and there is a very drastic difference in the way they are asking questions since 2011, right? So we'll be focusing more on these areas which are based on actually previous year questions. Now I hope I have answered the second question, which is what we need to study. Now it doesn't stop here, we need to complete we need to see the topics and everything. Now we'll talk a little things about how our course will be progressing and the topics we'll be covering through this online course on geography. Now let's move on to the topics. First we are going to take a look at Earth and Universe. So we'll be starting our course with this module, Earth and Universe, because we will be having so many basic things covered in this module which is important for your understanding of other modules. So we have designed the course in such a way that connectivity will be there, because most often people say that geography is a dry subject, you need to by heart a lot of things, but it's not like that. If you really understand certain things, you'll be able to link it with your other topics and it will become really interesting. So we'll start with this Earth and Universe. So the Earth and Universe, the topics we'll be covering includes, we'll start with the evolution. We'll start with the evolution of the universe, the theories explaining the evolution of universe, and we'll talk about our solar system, different planets, their properties, like what is the property of, like say, the Jupiter or other planets, and why there is life on Earth, like what are the properties of different planets, right? Now we'll be studying about planetary objects like asteroids, comet, like what are the difference between an asteroid and comet, because this syllabus entirely, or this topic is entirely very dynamic, because like very often we'll be finding like so many articles regarding this topic which appears in news, and like it keeps on changing. So if you look at the recent year pattern, the trend of the UPSC questions, you'll notice that the questions from this module, they're not very static, right? They're asking about the things that are happening around us. So we'll be discussing regarding those terms which frequently appears in news. I mean, these terms most often they won't be covered in any of the standard textbooks or anything, but it often appears in news. So I have compiled a list of such terms and everything, like we'll be discussing them through this topic, like planetary objects. Then comes we'll talk more about like the Earth itself, like the shape of the Earth. If you look at the shape of the Earth, like first of all, it's not flat, and we are like a spherical in shape, and it's not perfect sphere. It's more compressed at the poles, and it's like bulged at the equator. And what are the reasons for this, right? Why the Earth is bulged at the equator and why it is compressed at the poles? We'll get answers for these things when we are studying regarding the shape of the Earth. And the next one, we'll move on to the movements of the Earth, and this is a very important part in the Earth and Universe module, because this is a very basic topic. Like this will enable you to understand the basic concepts regarding different things in climatology and other things, like in the sense, like say the reason for season, and like the different movement of the Earth, I mean sun, and the changes in temperature kind of things, right? So this is very basic topic which is very essential for your understanding of especially climatology and oceanography. They are very much related with this topic, right? So here we'll be talking about the rotation and revolution of the Earth, and the specific like properties of this rotation and revolution. Okay, then we'll also talk about time zones. Like based on this rotation, we know that the time perceived at different place is different. India is having like Indian standard time zone. At the same time, like if it's 10 a.m. here, if you travel to some other part of the world, you'll notice that there is like time difference. Now why this time difference? Now within India itself, if you look at it, like the sunrise comes up earlier in the places like Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, and like it will come up late in the Gujarat. So the time is not same for everyone, and we'll talk about the reason behind it and how we are calculating the time zones and everything. Then we'll also talk about certain terms in news. This is according to the current affair relevance of this topic. Certain terms appears in news, and we'll be talking more about these terms in news, as well as we'll also solve the entire previous year questions that has come from this topic. At the end of the session, we'll be talking about after each topic, like we'll be talking about the previous year questions that has come from this. So you'll get an idea based on the things I say in the class, like you will get an idea how the questions will be asked, and you'll also get an idea like where you stand. If you're able to solve those previous year questions, you're done with the topic, right? You should be happy that you are able to solve these questions, and if a future question comes like this, there also you'll be able to solve. Okay, so after each module, it will be designed in a way that we'll also be solving the previous questions from that topic at the end of the class, right? So you should always stay tuned till the end of the class, because the important part, the questions comes under the towards the later part of the module. Now let's move on to the next one. The next topic is climatology, another very important part, like especially for your prelims as well as for your mains. Now understanding climatology, so many people it finds very difficult. It's because they all try to they all try to mug up the concept. They won't try to interlink. Now our courses, they're specifically designed in a way such that any person who is not even having a base on these things, right, will be able to understand and relate the entire concepts of climatology. So we'll start from the basics and we'll build up. Like in the sense, initially we'll talk about the atmosphere, like the properties of the atmosphere, certain parts, like the different layers, spheres, troposphere, stratosphere, the properties of these spheres, these regions, like that we'll talk about in atmosphere. Now from there we'll build up slowly into the factors which can influence the weather and climate. So basically in climatology, as I said earlier, we need to talk about we are going to talk about the weather and climate. So what are the factors influencing weather and climate? Like insolation and temperature, and like pressure and wind. So if I'm asking you, okay, what is the weather or what is the climate back home in your hometown? So we most often get this question, right? So we'll talk about, say, hey, it's hot, it's raining, it's cold, or like different things. It's very windy, very stormy, it floods at certain times, and if it's very dry, we have the drought seasons, like it's arid. So many things we say, right? So based on these things, there are different factors which can control the climate, like insolation, like the incoming solar radiation from sun, basic factor. Then depending on that, the temperature will change, and based on temperature changes, we will have changes in pressure. So we talk about quite often in articles and everything. You'll notice the terms like low pressure, depression, deep depression, cyclones, right? So these kind of things, they are associated with changes in temperature. They are inducing changes in pressure. Now based on these changes in pressure, there will be changes in wind. Like in the sense, the wind, which is movement of air, always moves from high pressure regions to low pressure regions. High pressure means those regions have a lot of air particles, and low pressure regions, they don't have much air particles. So obviously, as like say temperature moving from high temperature to low temperature, like the wind also, the air also will move from high pressure regions to low pressure regions, right? So the changes in pressure are causing changes in wind, right? Now the changes in wind, suppose if the wind is blowing from ocean to the continent, what happens is that we'll get more rainfall, right? So the wind can influence the rainfall. Now if a wind is coming from, say, a desert towards us or a continental region towards us, it will be having less moisture in it, so the rainfall will be less. It'll create more dry conditions, right? So based on the wind movement, the atmospheric moisture, the cloudy condition, the cloudiness of regions, all these things can be influenced by the wind movement. So these basic factors we'll discuss in detail, like what are the pressure belts, what are the wind, different properties of winds, the changes in temperature, insulation, so many things we'll discuss here. Based on these changes in basic factors, there will be different weather events in different parts of the world. Now if you go to, if you look at the eastern coastal plain, every year we'll be having cyclones forming there. Now why specifically the eastern coast is having more cyclones? Like if you look at, say, a state like UP or Himachal or any mainland state, they are not influenced by cyclones at all. But the coastal states like Tamil Nadu or Andhra Pradesh or Odisha, they're constantly influenced by the cyclones. It's a part of their climate. Every year, a particular cyclone season, they will be having cyclone formations. Now, why this weather event, cyclone, is only limited to the eastern coastal region? Why they are not affecting the mainland, or why their influence is less on the western coast? So many things we'll discuss in this weather event, and why the basic answer regarding why this weather event is limited to, or why not just this weather event, any weather event, why these events are limited to certain places specifically, the answer lies in the changes in the basic factors. So after building up the basic factors, the concepts regarding the basic factors, we will move on to the different weather events. Now under this module, we'll talk about, say, cyclones which form in tropical regions, cyclones which form in extratropical regions, thunderstorms, so various phenomena like the western disturbance or jet stream. So many features will be there. So these weather events, we'll discuss them separately. What are their basic factors? What do we mean by that weather event? What will be their effect? Where they can be found? All these things we'll be discussing under different weather events. Now, based on the changes in basic factors and changes in weather event, we will be having changes in climate. So we'll talk about that under the topic world climate. Throughout the world, the climate is different. Basically, this difference is there because of the changes in factors, changes in weather event. So after studying those things, we'll build the concept and we'll move on to the world climate. And another very important topic is this world climatic types, the world climate. Now if you look at the prelim syllabus, they were saying regarding India's physical geography as well as world physical geography. So this means we also need to study regarding the India's climate. So along with this climatology, the world climate, we'll also talk about India's climate in detail and specifically more about the Indian monsoon. So there won't be a specific climatology session for Indian geography. Rather we'll be incorporating that video or that class along with the world geography climatology sessions, right? So after that we'll also talk slight details regarding climate change. Okay, it's more of an environmental topic, like you will be getting this under ecology and environment. So we'll talk about certain basic things regarding climate change, which are related with geography. Okay, now moving on to the next topic, which is geomorphology. Now in geomorphology, we are studying regarding the landforms and landscapes. So again, if you look at the NCERT and the previous questions, the topics has been developed, and the geomorphology will start with the interior of the earth. Like in climatology, in order to study the weather and climate, we started with atmosphere, where this weather event and climates are taking place in the atmosphere, right? So similar way, in geomorphology, we'll start with the interior of the earth. Like in the sense, we'll talk about how earth evolved and what are the structures like crustal regions, mantle, and like core regions. These kind of things we'll talk about in the interior of the earth. Now after this, we'll talk about the materials with which the earth is made up of, which is rock, right? Different types of rock. There are different types of rocks, like igneous rock, sedimentary rock, metamorphic rock, right? So how did they form? What are the basic properties of these rocks? All those things we'll study in rocks. Now after this, after rocks, after the materials on the earth crustal region, we'll talk about crustal movements. Now if you look at this, the first module we'll talk about different layers of the earth's interior, like crust, mantle, and core, right? Now after this, after that interior, we'll talk more about the crustal regions, because the landforms and landscapes, everything, they're taking place on these crustal regions. So the second module we talked about the materials on the earth crust, and the third module we'll talk about the movements of this crust. Like we all must have heard about this theory, like continental drift theory. Every continental region was once a large continent, and it broke up from there and started drifting, such kind of things. And we also will talk about plate tectonics, the most modern theory regarding the continental drift theory, and what does it mean, like why certain regions are specifically having earthquake and certain regions have more concentration of volcanoes, and these kind of things we'll talk about the crustal movements. So the earth's crustal movements are leading to these geophysical phenomena. Now if you observed in syllabus, we talked about, it was specifying regarding earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanoes. Now if you look at around everywhere where we are having earthquake and volcanoes, there's specific regions. Like in the sense, if you look at the India's case, we have more earthquake activities in Himalayas. The peninsular region, the southern part of our nation, is free from the events of earthquake. Why? It's because the answer lies in this crustal movement. So we'll talk more about this kind of movements and everything in the crustal movements, right? Moving from there, we'll talk detail regarding earthquake, volcanoes, and tsunamis. Okay, from there, soil. So we have the rock, and this rock can undergo certain transformations, right? Certain transformations will lead to the production of soil. Certain geomorphic processes are there. So we'll talk about those geomorphic processes leading to different soil, and based on this soil, we'll be talking. You'll be able to get a basic idea regarding the types of crops that can be grown on this soil. Like in the sense, if you look at the Maharashtra, there we have more of the hard igneous rock, and the soil found there is black soil. Okay, this black soil is favorable for the cultivation of cash crops, especially like cotton and tapioca. Okay, but if you look at the North Indian plain, where we can find sedimentary rocks, we are having alluvial soil there. Okay, so this alluvial soil is more fertile than the black, and different kind of crops can be cultivated on alluvial soil. And if you really look at it, that's the region where we have more agricultural production. So this module rock is largely related with this soil, and both of them will be leading to it's a basic topic needed for your agriculture, the crops. So in a way that we'll be able to relate the rock, soil, and agriculture crops together, right, along with the climate. Okay, and in soil also, we'll also talk about India's soil in detail, the types of soil, their properties, things like that. Well, I told you, India's climate we'll be discussing along with our climatology sessions. Same way, here the India's physical features, the landforms and different kind of things, will be dealt along with the geomorphology module, right? So we have specific module based on India's physiography, different regions. Certain place we have a desert, certain other place we have Himalayas, coastal plains, peninsular region, and different plains, different kind of properties are there. These physical features we'll talk about in detail in India's physiography, and we also will talk about the world landforms, how different landforms are formed. If you look around, like the landforms in Rajasthan, the sand dunes, they're different from deep gorges in Himalayas. So why are they different? Or the landforms in, like, say, plains, why are they different? So these kind of things we'll get answer after studying geomorphology. Moving on to the next topic, which is oceanography. So in oceanography, we're going to study regarding the ocean water movement. Basically, there are ocean currents and there are, like, ocean tides. Now, like in climatology, we talked about basic factors which can control the climate and weather. Likewise, here we'll talk about, say, temperature and salinity distribution among the ocean water, which is leading to the movement of ocean water, like tides and ocean currents. Okay, also we'll talk about, like, different relief features, different landforms found over the oceans. Now, the same way we can find mountains on the continents, we can also find sea mounts on the oceans. So we'll talk about what are the landforms found over the ocean floor and related things. Okay, now moving on to the next one, we'll talk about, like, Indian geography specifically. So until like Earth and Universe, climatology, geomorphology and oceanography, you can actually relate so many things together. Now after this, the Indian geography, we are specifically focusing more on factual details. Even if they are asking question based on facts, you shouldn't go blank, right? So we'll talk about, say, major rivers, we'll talk about dams, we'll talk about lakes, and here we'll also talk about the resource distribution in India, the different industries, and we'll talk about the agriculture too. So if you really look at it, these industries, resources and agriculture, they're largely related with the physical geography modules we studied earlier. Like the rock and soil can influence the agriculture, the climate can influence the vegetation and agriculture, and, like, the resources found over certain regions are basically linked with the crustal movement, the plate movements, based on and their age. Based on this, we'll be having certain industries. So we'll try to, like, relate these things together. We'll try to link together these things so that you will understand the things, rather than, like, you don't need to mug up these things. Rather, you'll able to relate with these things and you'll able to link with certain topics. Okay, so we all have studied these things, like, at least 10th standard, and we all must have mugged up by heart a lot of concepts, like a lot of things from here. Now, here in our module, we'll try to link these topics so that, like, you can remember it for a longer period of time, and you will be able to get the reason behind why certain things are specifically located at certain places. Like, in the sense, if you look at the hills, okay, certain places we have hills, and why the hills are there, that we'll talk about in geomorphology. And based on these hills, we have the rivers. If you look at the rivers, none of the river will flow from, say, downslope region to the upslope region. Everywhere the river will be flowing from upper slope to the low slope region, the downward region. So why? Right? And these rivers, they're mostly related with some kind of mountain, some kind of hill. So while studying the rivers, we'll also talk about the mountains and hills there, in a way that you will be able to connect in a better way with these things. You'll understand, okay, why this river is flowing in this particular direction, because the landform is like this, so the river is flowing like this. So you don't need to by heart it, you can understand it, you'll remember it for a longer time. Okay, so this course is specifically designed in this way, enabling you to link or interlink different topics so that it will become interesting. Okay, so as of now, we have seen why we need to study geography, and we have also seen what we need to study. We have seen syllabus, we have seen the different topics we will be covering through the course. Now the next question is how you can study these things, and the simplest answer would be, that's why you have joined this course. Be glad that you have joined this course, and we are going to help you out with how to study these topics. Now we'll be having detailed discussion based on the topic list I have already shown. Now before that, or like along with that, you need to do your part, right? I mean, I can only tell you things that you need to study, and these are the things that I can explain everything, right? But eventually, who should be doing it? It's you. So don't, you have to take the effort from you. And most often people say that you need to work hard to get something, but I would say, you need to work smart. You need to know where to invest your time. You need to invest your time in areas that will be more productive for you, and you need to do things in a way that it will enable you to be more productive. For example, if you're studying certain topic, you're spending so much of time on it, which you're not going to get any return. It's of no use, right? So when you're studying certain things, especially the geography, you need to study it in a particular way, so that like it will be more efficient, it will be more productive. So we'll talk about how you need to study these things. So the first thing I need you to do is prioritizing topics. The topic list we have provided here is based on this prioritizing. Prioritizing means like giving more importance to certain topics based on, you might ask, why am I prioritizing certain topic? It's based on previous questions. The questions that has been asked so far, you'll notice that there are certain areas which are favorite for UPSC. They keep on asking questions from those areas. I'm not saying the questions will be repeated, but the areas will be repeated, like tropical cyclone or like the landslides in Himalayas. They are their favorite area. They keep on repeating the questions from it. So we'll focus more on that, and we'll study, we'll prioritize, and we'll study, right? And the next one is understand and relate with surroundings. Most often, like I started with saying, like the geography is a dry subject, and like most people try to mug this up. But instead, if you can relate this with your surroundings, it will be very interesting. For example, if you notice, during June to September, we'll be having monsoonal rainfall. Now, why specifically June to September? This you will notice, like the details regarding the monsoon, you'll study through our course. But if you notice, if you're reading the articles and everything, you'll notice that, say before June, 1 month before June, the Indian Meteorological Department, IMD, they'll come out with the forecast saying, okay, this time we are going to have above normal rainfall, and after the monsoon will make onset on this particular date. Right? So the onset, these kind of topics, these kind of concepts which you will study in geography, and if you can read the articles, you'll be interesting, you'll be able to notice this. And after this monsoon season, we'll have like a news regarding tropical cyclones coming in news. So we have studied the tropical cyclones, their factors and everything. You will be able to notice it in your surrounding. Likewise, for another thing, like after the climatology session, there is a very interesting topic here, like clouds. Now, after studying the different cloud classification, if you go out and look at the sky, there are different clouds. So you'll know, okay, what are those clouds? What are their effects? You'll understand those things. Now, if you do this, you're not anymore mugging up the concept. You're understanding it. So you will remember this for a longer time. Otherwise, what happens is that we'll study certain subject and we'll forget it within, say, 1 month or 2 months. But you'll be studying this, say, 6 months before your prelims examination. So by the time the exam comes, you're not remembering anything. What use is it for? Instead of that, understand the concept, understand the logic, and try to relate this with the surroundings, so that you will remember this for a very long period of time, right? And this is a very important aspect that you need to know. And the third one, solving questions. I don't think I need to explain this, even if you will get more idea regarding this when we proceed through our sessions, and when we start solving the questions, you'll notice that even if we study certain topics, like you need to have a knack regarding how to solve these questions, how to get to the answer. Okay, there will be really tough 3 statements, and it might seem like it's very tough and you might give it up. But a person who has an experience solving these questions will notice with whatever basic things you have studied, you'll try to get into the answer. So I need you to be confident, and in order to enable you to be confident while writing the examination, we will solve the previous questions, all the UPSC previous questions as well as APC previous questions will solve along with our sessions. And we'll also provide these questions along with our the study material, the PDF material. At the last of this PDF material, you'll be able to find the questions. So after studying a topic, right, you don't need to just believe me. I'm saying, okay, one topic is very important. See, this R is saying this topic is important. You don't need to do that. You just don't need to believe me entirely. You can look at the previous questions. You'll notice that, okay, from these areas I'm having questions, so this topic is important. So you need to study more on that topic. Plus, there will be certain related areas with that topic. So you'll notice, okay, since they have asked the question from this topic, this one related with this also is also important. So in a way that you will know which areas to prioritize more on. right? So in order to understand that, you need to get practice with solving maximum number of questions, and we'll solve all the previous questions along with the class itself. Plus there will be test series, based on the material, based on the classes. That will also enable you to get practice with solving questions, because when you give that prelims, it shouldn't feel like you're going to solve the questions for the first time. You'll become nervous. You should be experienced at solving the questions. So the geography course is specifically designed to enable you to solve maximum number of questions. Okay. And the next one, facts to remember. Now this is one area in geography, everyone believes that there are so many things we need to by heart. I'm not denying that you don't need to memorize things. You need to memorize things, but there are very efficient ways to do so that we'll discuss through the classes. Certain things I already mentioned along in this video itself, like if you're studying say hills, the rivers will be flowing with or will be related with the hills. So if you're studying hills in a pattern, like in the sense if you're studying the hills from the western Himalayas, study the rivers originating there. And if you're moving on to the central Himalayas, what are the rivers originating there? Then move on to the the eastern Himalayas. There also study the rivers from there. So if you're trying to memorize, if you're trying to recollect whatever you have studied, you need to just think from an organized way. Now if I am saying, this is a bit related with the way our brain works. For example, if I'm telling you random 10 words and I'm asking you to by heart, it'll take say 30 minutes, 20 minutes, depending on each one's capacity. But the same 10 words, instead of the 10 words, I'm using a sentence with 10 words, which has a meaning. Then you will be able to easily remember it. That's exactly we'll do with the course. In the sense, we'll try to link certain things so that the facts that you need to memorize, you don't need to mug up. Rather, you need to just memorize it, and you will be able to relate with it, and you will be able to remember it for a long period of time. So the course is entirely designed in a way that I'll be explaining certain facts which are related with each other, and we'll try to interlink these concepts. Okay. The next one is repeated revision. This is one of the most important areas to make you how much important this is. Suppose if you're studying 20 topics, 20 points regarding something, let it be anything. It's not just related with geography, it can be related with any topic. So if you're studying 20 topics, you studied it, you'll take more time to study 20 points, right? So suppose you can revise it thrice, but at the end of it, when the examination comes, you'll only remember 6. Right? You studied 20, you invested time, but you're remembering only 6. But imagine this, instead of 20, you are studying say 8 points, but you're revising it 10 times. Earlier, because 20, you were not able to revise it more time, right? More times. But here, there are points are less, you're revising it for a longer period of time. And these 8 points, you'll remember it always. So this should be a mantra: revise, repeat, revise, repeat. Whatever you are studying, it should be in a revisable form. Now imagine this, the module, the PDF and everything would be having on an average 10 pages, 15 pages. If you look at the NCERT also, we have more number of pages there. So if you're going to read the entire module again and again and revise, it'll take more time, and what happens is that it's not a very efficient way. Rather it'll make you lose more time. In order not to make this mistake, whenever you are studying the material, you need to make your own short notes based on that. So suppose if I'm handing you out 10-page material, you need to reduce it into 2 pages, like one side, 2 sides, right? So what happens is that if you have the 10-page material to revise, you can probably revise it thrice. But if you have the 2-page material, the same things compressed in your own wordings, your own incomplete phrases, pictures, points, things like that, or the flow chart or numerical code or anything, right? You'll be able to revise this 10 times so that you will remember it for a longer time. It'll be helpful for your exam. So follow these patterns: prioritizing topics, understanding and related with surroundings, solving questions, facts to memorize, and repeated revision. And you need to have your own short notes, not just regarding geography, regarding every subject. Okay, now let's move on to the next one, which we are going to discuss regarding the book list. So everyone asks this, what are the subjects, what are the textbooks you need to read to qualify the examination? So regarding geography, you need to read the basic NCERTs like class 11 fundamentals of physical geography, class 11 itself India physical environment. So second one is regarding Indian geography, first one is regarding world geography. Our module is also actually compressed or compiled version of these two NCERTs, and plus we need to study regarding India, people and economy. For the specific things like industries and resources, we need this NCERT. Now apart from this, we should study Goching-Lyon. Like Goching-Lyon is an orange color small textbook, and we have noticed that for UPSC it's a source book. Even in 2019, one specific question came from Goching-Lyon, which is not like any dealt in NCERT. Also world climate, it's an area where they usually ask questions from Goching-Lyon. The next one is like Atlas, definitely, right? For map, in order to study map, we need Atlas. Map is a very important area for UPSC's examination. We'll also cover maps through the online course. We'll talk about the world map, we'll talk about the India's map. India's map we'll be covering along with the physical geography session itself, and we'll dedicate specific module for the world geography, so that it will enable you to study the different the locations they are asking question based on that. Also we'll solve the map based questions which UPSC has asked so far along with that module. Okay, now apart from this, internet, you cannot deny the importance of internet. So many topics they're asking questions based on it, they're not found in any of the standard textbooks. Even if you're reading an optional level textbook, you won't get those topics. So if you're going behind textbooks in search of such topics, it's going to be a waste of time. So you need to make sure you're using the internet very productively. See, we all use the internet, this video itself, right? You're seeing it through the internet. So what you need to do is today onwards, with the course itself, along with the course, whenever you're spending time on internet, spend it along with the in a productive way. In the sense, everyone must be watching YouTube, right? So watch YouTube videos regarding the strategies of toppers, or regarding a concept of geography, or regarding a timeline regarding say history or something, right? So whatever habits you have, try to make it in an aligned way, so that it's streamlined with your preparation. So you're not wasting your time while using internet, while using YouTube. You're making it helpful for your preparation. So what happens is that in a day-to-day time, right, we won't be able to be productive throughout the day. So we need to just lay back and take a rest, right? So while doing that, while watching a video, watch a video which is going to be useful for you, right? Don't see it as you're studying. You're just spending your time, leisure time, but spend it on in a more productive way. Now you might think you might ask whether you need to read all the things like the NCERTs and Goching-Lyon, GC-Lyon. So our module is actually a compiled version of NCERTs as well as GC-Lyon. Instead of reading this, you can stick with our material, and you'll also be getting the previous questions along with the material. And Atlas and internet, you need to do it yourself, and from the internet we'll also talk about certain topics will be included along with the course itself. So this is the overall idea regarding the way our geography course will be progressing, and the topics we will be discussing, the syllabus and the things that you need to do. So in the next video, stay tuned for it. We'll start with the Earth and universe. We'll talk about the evolution. It's very interesting. You'll be able to relate that with so many other things. So see you in the next video. Thank you.